Never did very well in school. So I've got ADHD, so I know you've mentioned that as well. When I was like 14, I invested my birthday money into stocks.
The whole COVID period, we were under such financial pressure that for me it was like, right, I don't ever want to be in this situation again.
For me, my why was to help my family, help my mum out.
It's going to make me cry.
How does it feel to have quit your job?
I feel free.
We've done 20,000 in sourcing alone.
So you've made 20 grand in the last 6 weeks.
I want to make the money work for us rather than us for the money.
So we've got a mother and son duo on the Property Investors Academy, financially free. How does it feel to have quit your job?
Oh, amazing. I had people at work asking like how I felt, and I was like, I feel free.
Yeah.
And that's how it feels. Like now, instead of dreading my working day, I'm like, what shall I do today? There's an endless list of to do things, but it's really, really good.
And we can thank Joost as well for dragging you on board.
Yeah.
So
total credit to him for that.
Yeah,
definitely.
well done. And I remember Joost did a video on TikTok.
It was on TikTok. It was after I just completed the deal selling masterclass course, the 4-day event. So I went there and I was like, you know what? I need to get my brand out there. I need to start doing things. So I did a review of your course. And obviously, as you know, people like to comment on it.
It used to be a really positive place, TikTok, but now it's becoming a bit more like Twitter or X. So I remember seeing a lot of comments, people saying to you, you've been scammed. You're not going to make any money. What are you doing? And I remember thinking, this kid better end up on Winners on a Wednesday. And here you are, not just financially free, but also with your mom, who's also financially free. So massive kudos and congrats for that. What's your background then? So you were working in a job, but you've got some buy-to-let experience.
Yeah, so I've kind of traditionally, I've done the classical thing of working. I've grown up with the idea that education is really important. You go to uni and then, you get a job and, steady towards retirement, something like that.
Work hard. Invest in properties the traditional way.
Yeah. For me, actually, the turning point came during COVID. So I've always been interested in property. And the last 10, 15 years, I've worked as a freelancer. My background is actually in travel industry. When COVID hit, the company I literally had worked for the last 5 years as a freelancer. I knew I didn't have any job security, but still it came as a slight shock when I got a phone call in like a shopping center on a Saturday, like, you don't have to come back on Monday. So that was my job con. And it was literally in that period, in the same week that my husband lost all his work as well, because he worked as a consultant. He works in like disaster management, disaster prevention, and all the international travel stopped. As a family, we were massively impacted.
Yeah, well, that was a disaster in and of itself.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was. The financial pressure was enormous. And it was a real turning point because I think up to that point, I've always taken the approach that money was nice, but maybe not an essential. Like as long as I was happy in my job and I would be okay. Took the approach that job satisfaction was more important than the money I was earning with it.
And it is important.
It is important.
But money helps.
That whole COVID period, we were under such financial pressure that for me it was like, right, I don't ever want to be in this situation again.
When did you quit your latest job? Then when did you just go completely financially free?
So I quit in January this year
and
had two months notice period. So I've served my notice now. I'm still doing 1 day a week, but that's kind of on a very easygoing basis. I can, give notice anytime.
Well,
so
massive congrats.
Yeah.
Massive congrats. What was how did you kind of get into this whole property world?
When I was like 14, I invested my birthday money into like stocks in Microsoft and got my dad to do that.
That's true.
Yeah.
I remember that.
As a mom, you kind of want him to go and enjoy himself, but he's like, no.
And then never did very well in school. So I've got ADHD, so I know you've mentioned that as well. So always really struggled to actually focus on things that I didn't enjoy. Didn't do very well in school until I got to my A-levels and then did very well because I excelled in the things that I enjoyed. So I got to pick 3 subjects that actually were enjoyable.
Yeah. And really hyper-focus on
exactly.
that.
So then I actually ended up doing really well. And I never thought before that, I'm going to go to university. And then suddenly I was like, I'm this straight A student and I can go to like a Russell Group university. And I was like, I just didn't really know what to do. Going into the school that I went to, which was like a state school, but like a well-performing state school, they just pushed everyone into university directly. And that was during the COVID year as well. And ended up hating university in that first year started my first business, which was like Amazon FBA kind of business, was the first one that I did. You know, I was learning about business. I was doing a business course, but I was sat in my dorm room, not actually going to anything, not learning anything about business, and kind of just felt that I already, I'm not going to say knew it all, but like that's how it felt. Like I didn't feel like I was progressing.
Studying business at university.
Yeah.
I always find it interesting because the guys lecturing, are they actually like serial entrepreneurs, successful? Or?
I think what I struggled with is I'm more of a practical learner. So getting all this theory dumped on me, etc., I was just kind of like, okay, but I want to actually go out and do it. You know, I'm not doing anything here. And I didn't feel as if that I was actually progressing in my sort of business knowledge and also just progressing in life. Like I felt that like I'd done my A-levels, I did really well, but there was a next step that I thought university was going to take me, and it didn't.
Did you finish?
It didn't take me there.
Graduate?
No. So after my first year, so I finished my first year, got offered a degree apprenticeship at Amazon. So something a lot more practical. So then dropped out of my first year to do that instead, and then continued with that for a little while as well. But I think what kind of got me into property and again, being more entrepreneurial was I was a bit, like I'm 21 now. I was older then, so I was about 17, 18. So I could see that financial pressure happening to my parents. And then I was like, I never, ever, ever want to go through this with my family in the future. So then I was like, okay, what can I do? And then I ended up going to a £1 crash course. And, you know, you always ask, what's your why? And for me, my why was to help my family, help my mum out, get her out of her job, you know, push,
make me cry.
push, like, you know, kind of like help us work forward and never have to be in that situation again. And then, yeah, the journey has just been from there and it's continued. And yeah, that was amazing. And then it was literally right after they had laid off at Amazon, they'd laid off a bunch of people, which were people in my team who were, you know, you talk about highly educated, great employees, never did anything wrong to the company, just got in an instant like laid off. So when you're, you know, 19, 20, watching people who you almost like were my mentors in my work lose their jobs for no reason other than shareholder value and they wanted to make more money and cut costs. To me, that was like, okay, I need to get back into this entrepreneurial thing. And then went to the crash course and yeah.
It's mad how we can work really hard, do what everybody says will bring financial security.
And be miserable.
Yeah, and be miserable and broke.
Yeah.
You know, climb the top of the corporate ladder and realize you were on the wrong ladder. And also with cost of living crisis, and then if you just look at how much the average rent is compared to the average salary,
yeah,
you know,
it's nuts.
Normal people, just hardworking, good people that went to university, it's not easy just to get by. And I know you as well, you invested in even buy-to-let property.
Yeah, so one of the things we did, because I mean, this whole money journey that I was speaking about earlier, that's definitely kind of been, like a journey, like work in progress for years. So I was saying to my husband, like, I want to make the money work for us rather than us for the money. You know, we're doing something wrong. We both have a master's degree. We are highly educated. We're working our socks off just to get by, right? Yeah. Which is ridiculous. Like, it's like, if we can't make it, if we can't get beyond that, then who can? So one of the things we did, we decided to rent our house out that we lived in, that we'd bought, and drew equity out to then buy another house. So that's how it started. By now, we've kind of reversed all of that because buy-to-let is, you know, there's so many tax changes that have happened, you know, that were put in place by George Osborne and Cameron at the time, that it's very difficult to make it pay. But I wasn't aware of this whole rent to rent kind of opportunity. Basically, your courses that
opened our eyes to it. Yeah.
Joost cottoned onto it. That kind of made us take the leap to go in that direction. So, yeah.
And now then,
hats off.
Yeah, well done, Joost. and also well done you, because a lot of people that have been in the normal working world and they've gone to uni and that, they're so set in their ways, they just think, oh no, they become skeptical. And anything that comes about, just poo-poo it. Oh, it doesn't work. No. But the fact that you were open-minded and supported Joost, and now it's kind of gone full circle, is incredible. So what's your strategy then? What are you doing then, Joost? How are you making all this money?
The main things that we've been doing at the moment. So we took our first SA on in July of last year.
And that's a rent to
serviced accommodation.
Yeah.
Close by Leeds City Centre, 3-bedroom property. The reason we did that is partially because, you know, I went to the first deal selling course and I'd never even knew about rent to service accommodation before that. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start making calls. So I just started ringing
And we
people.
make you at the training, don't we?
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of uni. It's like, here's the theory. Does everyone understand? All right, good. Get your phone out.
Yeah, go.
Go. Now okay.
Yeah, so that started, got those calls in, ended up getting agreement on 3 properties. One of them, we decided like, okay, we'll take this on ourselves, because what we kind of wanted to do is we knew that deal sourcing was a thing and wanted to get into that because I'd been on the training for the deal selling. But it was like, I want to understand this service accommodation game and I want to be able to do it before I start selling it and managing it to other people. Now we've got 5 SAs that we do for ourselves. And then we've sort of expanded the business into sourcing SAs for people and essentially we want to help people do what we've done. So we want to help them find service accommodations in the areas that they are looking for and then, you know, help them manage it.
Are you doing management as well? So is that 5? Is that including management?
No, so the 5 is just our own. And then in total, we've got 9, I think now, or 10.
Great.
So,
Yeah, and that's kind of naturally grown. So Joost is quite good in kind of sharing his learnings and sharing his success. So I think I remember like at one point he was saying like, oh, you look, I got this 25 night booking. And on the back of that, you got approached by somebody who was like, I'm not managing this on my SA. How do you do this? Actually, I want you to manage my SA on my behalf. So that's kind of the whole management has grown quite organically.
And that's quite good, the management, because there's very little risk. If you're managing the property, you're not putting down any money.
Yeah.
You're not having to guarantee the rent.
Yeah.
It's just
It's like what she was talking about. It was a guy that I met on one of the courses. He ended up taking on his own rent to rent, but actually lives in the Philippines. So then he was like, you know, you're based in the area of Leeds where his SA was. And he was like, I'm really struggling to manage this because I haven't got, you know, the time difference, haven't got boots on the ground, etc. And because he'd met me and seen that I was progressing my journey, and this was months and months ago before I'd even reached the level that we were at now, he was like, okay, can you help me out? And, you know, in the last 2 months, we've had 2 direct bookings. So for 2 months, it was someone who stayed for a month and extended again, completely direct, you know, and then he's been able to have it profitable because when we took it over, it wasn't being profitable.
And what do you charge for your service accommodation management?
So we started when we take on an investor, we source for them and then manage it at 10%. We've now we're looking to up that to 12%, but that was for us to try and get in the game to push ourselves like, okay, what are we doing compared to our competition?
I know it's low compared to other management companies, but the approach we've taken is like, we want to make sure that our investors make money as well. You know, in the end, we're in it for the long term. They need to make money. And it's very easy to just take a cut of 20%. But depending on how your deal stacks up, you know, it comes straight off your bottom line. So it can be quite hard to then have the deal profitable for the the investor. So we just taking the approach like, okay, we're quite early in this process. You know, we've got our own SAs, we're managing for other people, but it's still early days. So let's start at a rate that we are comfortable with and that we know we can make it work for
that makes sense. Have you thought about combining your buy-to-let with service accommodation?
We had a discussion about it.
Yeah.
But just from where the area of the house is and the area we live, we just said it wouldn't be profitable enough. And as she said, we actually end up moving back into that house.
Your main money then is coming from managing service accommodation properties for people, your own rent-to-rents, and packaging and selling deals, doing deal sourcing.
Yeah, so it's like 3 pillars.
Yeah, and it's all kind of linked. Yeah. And it's like the real definition of being a property entrepreneur. What kind of money are you making then? Like what's an average month?
In terms of sourcing, in my mind, I wanted to do a sort of financial freedom challenge, as I'm sure, you know, because you've done it and, you know, people watching will know. But I wanted to do like an extreme financial freedom challenge. I was like, you know what, go big or go home. So I set a goal for February to do 10,000 in profit.
Which I thought was hugely ambitious.
And then from the start of February to where we are now, which is like mid-March, we've done 20,000 in sourcing alone.
Wow.
Which is, you know what, it is crazy. Like I didn't ever think that we would get to that.
So you've made 20 grand in the last 6 weeks.
Pretty much,
Yeah,
which is
and
nuts.
when we sat down a few months ago when we kind of made a bit of a business plan about where we wanted to be, and that at that time we said like, okay, what we think is realistic is about I think we said 2,000 from our own essays, 800 from management, and 3,000 from
selling deals.
Selling
Yeah.
deals. So 1 deal a month. We thought like we can do that, right? So that was like 5,000-6,000, and that would be enough to quit my job, you to kind of leave and everything. And I mean, we have just totally surpassed that.
Wow.
So
Completely blown out of the water.
yeah, we have to set new goals. Essays, we're doing really well as well because we've got 2 that we've been up and running for a while. They are doing really well. And then we've taken a couple on that we've only taken on since this month. So it's a bit early days to kind of see how that is developing, but it's looking good.
What's your role as and responsibilities in the business then? How do you work
How
together?
we split it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably more the analytical person. So I'm starting to look at like optimizing things, looking at our pricing strategy versus occupancy rates, all of that, and see how we can optimize profits. So that's one of the things I'm focusing on. You're
Yeah.
probably more on the sales side.
So I've done more so the sort of bit more marketing, bit more sourcing, because I also I pulled her into this to begin with. So I kind of was able to build a bit of a brand, build some
So
reputation.
you're more front end
Yes.
Yeah.
and you're more back end.
Yes,
You
exactly.
you create the mess and you pick up the pieces.
Kind of.
Yeah, the accounts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. When you were at school, did anybody, like any of the teachers, or did people see that you were a natural entrepreneur, or was it not really spotted?
In school, I always, as I've said, like I kind of struggled until I was about 16. So I went to a school from year 7 to year 8, and they put a lot of pressure on like GCSEs and that kind of stuff. And I honestly, at the time, I played a lot of rugby and I just didn't care. Like the only thing I wanted to do was play sport, play rugby. So I ended up being like on like a report card and that kind of stuff. And then we ended up moving into a different area. And then we had to make a decision. It was like, okay, am I going to move school? Because I got offered a place. So then I ended up taking that place there. And that was a much better environment for me because in that time I had people that were just close to me, local, and kind of helped me thrive. And then once I reached A levels, that's when I really had some teachers, like especially I did have one business teacher who really believed in me and I think kind of saw it. But I think that entrepreneurial side didn't come out of me properly until I left school.
It's not pushed in school.
Yeah.
So even the business teachers, as much as I think he believed in you as a person, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's like, you know what, go and do your own thing because you'll be better off doing that rather than going to uni.
Yeah.
You know, the whole
was-
education
I think-
system is so geared towards kind of keep on educating, go to uni.
I mean, that one business teacher I'm talking about, he was actually one of the stars, if you want to call it, because he actually had a business, a stationery business, bizarre, but then ended up selling it for a couple £1 million. So it was really successful. And then was like, you know what, I'm just going to go into teaching. So he was one of the ones that really kind of
lived it.
He lived it and he knew what he was talking about. But like I spoke about earlier, when it came to me finally doing really well in school and having this option to go to like good universities, that's what was kind of, you know, because your business teacher is not your sort of careers and guidance on like where you should go, what you should do next.
I think you got caught a bit
Yeah.
in this, like, oh, I can go to a Russell Group
Yeah,
university. So I
definitely.
think there was a little bit of status, like this is cool. You
Yeah.
know, I can say I'm at Nottingham University because that pressure didn't come from us because I never knew for sure, given how his
was in school.
education had been, that university was right for him. I felt it was too theoretical.
Yeah.
Which it was. It
but-
wasn't the right decision.
It's, you know, it was like, yeah, there was a bit of a status thing that kind of was very appealing.
I get if you want to be a doctor, you have to
Yeah.
go to uni. If you want to be a lawyer, you go to law school. If you want to be in business, I don't get the idea of going to business university. It doesn't make much sense to me.
I think
You're probably right.
Yeah, I think
Right.
I think you're right. I think the only reason, like looking back on it now, the only reason that someone would go to university if you're not, you know, doctor, lawyer, dentistry, that kind of stuff, is just for the experience. Like if you want that, you know, you don't really want to go into the world of work because, you know, I'll be totally fair on myself. Like before starting this business, previous businesses, my apprenticeship, that kind of stuff, like I've put a lot of pressure on myself to be successful, and not everybody is cut out for that. Not everybody wants that. And if you want to spend, you know, years from like 18 to 22 being able to kind of, especially for me, like coast through my degree, live a life of going out, partying, etc., like that's kind of the only other side to it that I see.
Yeah.
But if you're
There
wired like I am, you can't do it. It doesn't
There is
work.
a degree of where student life kind of slowly educates you to become a bit more independent, I suppose. And I think the reality is that a lot of students don't necessarily, even if they study business, they don't study business because they think they're going to set up their own business. They study business because they expect that will give them a nice job in some kind of corporate company, you know, like a commercial marketing or sales job or something like that. So I think it's not geared towards entrepreneurialism. Not really.
Yeah. And they don't spot it in school. Certainly with me, you know, there was only one teacher that saw anything. Most people were there never spotted that there was an entrepreneurial flair there.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the kids that as well struggle, ADHD or the naughty kids or the ones that have got short attention spans, they're actually entrepreneurs.
I think it's like, for me, how I believe, I think it's just a way that you're wired, like an internal thing that you can't necessarily put your finger on. But like when I go to bed at night, I'm always like, I always feel that pressure, and it's maybe not always good, but I feel that pressure like I should have done more, I could have done more. There's still this, there's still that, and it's just how I wake up, and it's how I go to sleep. Yeah,
hungry for success.
And I think some people just have that in them, and that's what they want to do.
Yeah, can't put it in anybody either. How's the what's the academy been like? The experience? What have you done, and what are the features that you've kind of found most useful?
I think it's been, for us, it's been really good. It's been amazing. It's an incredible network. You know, people always say like you need to surround yourself by the people that you kind of aspire to be or whatever. It's just having that network has been really, really good. Plus the access to mentors or professional, you know, people who've walked the walk when you need it. You know, like when we took on, so we've taken on 2 Brighton flats very recently. I had some questions about the contract. You know, I could just literally speak to Tatiana within a day.
Who's a lawyer?
Who's a lawyer, and just kind of get her thoughts. It's just that kind of that little bit of hand holding that really, really helps, because it means that you're just so much more confident that what you're doing, you're actually taking the right steps forward. Otherwise, you end up making mistakes that are very, very costly.
Being in a network with like-minded individuals is so important, because once you kind of go out of that environment, there's so many distractions and things, and you know, you've always got people in your life and you've always got things to do. So kind of sometimes every now and then just putting yourself back in that environment. So going to a dinner that we have, or going to the training courses, or, you know, now there's the inner circles. Like I'm one of the leaders for Leeds Inner Circle, so I help host that. Like putting yourself back in that environment with those people, it helps remotivate you if you're feeling a bit like, God, I've just had problem after problem, or, you know, something's always things coming up, and it just helps remotivate you. And it helps drive that consistency, because that's what I've seen as one of the most important features to, you know, I don't even feel like we're there. I don't feel like we've made it, but to any form of success that we have had and any form of success we will have in the future, consistently being able to just do those things, get on the phone, speak to people, network, etc. Because it's those connections that you made 2-3 months ago,
right?
That person then might come around and be like, actually, yeah, I would love you to be able to manage my property, or now's the right time that I'm looking for a sourcer to help me find a deal.
It's like farming, isn't it? You're just sowing seeds, meeting different people.
It's all about creating that sort of funnel for the leads that eventually come towards you, but that doesn't just happen overnight. You have to consistently put the work in to do that.
As a mom, do you think you would be prouder of your son for graduating uni, or for becoming financially free and for helping you quit your job?
Oh, without a doubt, the second bit. Without a doubt. We were talking this morning a bit about, like, you know, this interview, and Joost was saying, like, my why. I'm going to set off. You know, he was like, my why is to get you out of that job. I mean, it's incredible. You know, it's not about the money. It's about the time. You're being financially free allows you the time to then do good things. Yeah. You know, I can't wait to help other people with the money that we make, you know, whether it's teaching them how to do the same or helping others. But it's possible because you've got the financial freedom. So that is just incredible.
You guys need to come out to Uganda with us.
I'd love to, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be... Yeah. What would you say if you were advising yourself from like a year or two ago?
Yeah.
What would you say to your 2-year younger self that was just getting into all of this?
I think what I would say, which I've kind of touched on previously, is be consistent. Don't let those little things get you down. Like, you know, when it comes to running a serviced accommodation, like, you are constantly dealing with people, and people are not easy. You know, it's not easy to deal with people. So you have to constantly deliver the best service, stick to what you believe in, and continue working on it. So just stay consistent, and you have to be able to apply yourself to your trade and learn. Always be open to new ideas and always be open to new people. I think some people, like you talked about previously, like a typical buy-to-let investor, I'm not saying that, but like some people are so set in their ways that they're not open to new ideas and they're not open to working with new people. And you never know that you're shutting an opportunity that might change your life. One person that you meet could change your life forever. And that's how I see it. It's like one tiny decision of me going, you know what? I'm going to spend £1 to go to this crash course on a Friday in London has literally changed the trajectory of my life that I never knew how much that would do.
Yeah, wow. Well, I'm really, really proud of you guys. You're a massive asset to the Academy. And I really appreciate you coming on as well and sharing and inspiring other people. Keep up the great work. And I look forward to continue journeying with you guys.
Thank you.